Now with it though, wholly intriguing. I think for the first 16 picks, I think that was for me the next like segue out of that is
Yeah.
the first 16 picks. 25% of them are by the New York franchises, 2 by the Jets, 2 by the Giants. They have 3 of the top 10 picks at 2, 5, and 10. So what a week this is going to be for New York radio.
Yeah.
Now the Knicks lost the game too. Tomorrow's show might go for 12 hours. Whatever radio show there is in New York, you could talk for 12 hours on New York sports. New York Mets with
Yeah.
how they're playing. Did they win today?
Let's see. I don't think they played today, but
Okay.
let's see. I do love it. Is so good that FanDuel was like, yeah, we'll have a when do the the Mets win their next game. They did not play today,
Okay.
so we'll have to wait on that.
That's kind of funny. Mets, Jets, Nets. Wonder if that was on purpose. We'll never know. Anyway, but that is for the top 16, and so now they kind of control a lot of that.
Yep.
The first part of the draft, and especially the first 10 picks, which is going to be. I know a lot of people have talked about how this draft is bad or whatnot.
Yeah.
Not very star-driven. I think the first hour and a half of our show on Thursday is going to be so intriguing.
I
can't wait.
Because you cannot pinpoint, really, besides Fernando Mendoza, one player to one spot for sure.
Yeah.
At 2, it's a 50-50 between Alvaro Reese and David Bailey. At 3, the door completely opens. I start to think, Rams could trade up to 3. Cardinals are going to trade back. They could draft whichever one of Alvaro Reese and David Bailey isn't drafted. So those first 16 picks, 4 of them for the New York franchises. I guess I'll ask you guys, which of the 2 New York teams do you think wins those first 16 picks and comes out with the best impact?
Giants. Because the Jets suck at drafting.
I mean, that's definitely one way to look at it. I don't
Sure.
disagree, but I also do think it's easier to say Giants because we're going to see the more immediate impact of it next season of like, if they hit on these picks, the Giants could actually be pretty good next year, where realistically, even if the Jets hit on the picks, they're still not going to be very good, and we're still kind of looking at them as like, they're a year away.
Yeah.
We're
Now-
still looking to the 2027 draft. So from that standpoint, I think we're going to see more impact next year from the Giants, and also that makes it way more intriguing because it's just like, how does this player help them potentially, compete for the division next year and be one of those, 4th to 1st teams or something like that.
Financial analogy is like when you have a huge debt, and so all your money goes just paying off the interest. You're not actually paying off the debt.
Yeah.
That's what the Jets are doing. So like they could have the better draft class, but because they are so bad, it's not going to move the needle. Whereas the Giants are like average right now, slightly below average probably. And so 2 good pieces moves the needle and puts them above average.
Yeah.
Now, if this was a blind test, if you said I could have 2 and 16 or 5 and 10, I'm picking 2 and 16. In this draft class, I'm taking 2 and 16.
Okay. I like that. Why?
I really want the first player that isn't quarterback. I
Sure.
want to pick the first player off the board.
What if you screw it up?
That's on me.
True.
But I don't want to. I don't want to be
It just
left
feels
with.
very screw upable there.
It does feel screw upable, but I don't want to be left with the 4th option. And there are a lot of good options, but I want to have that decision.
Sure.
And then at 16, I still like one of the pieces I could get. Whether, I mean, if like I said, if this was a blind ranking, there's some options. But like, if I'm the Jets, I think there's good options all around. Offensive line, which I know we said they've got their tackles. We like that where they are
Yeah.
there.
Mimbu.
But maybe guard is
Fashanu.
still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like having the first player off the board.
That's fair. I do think this, in my eyes, like greatly increased the odds. Well, I mean, they have an extra pick, so kind of duh, but like at the same time, like they're a little independent statistically of the Giants taking a playmaker. Because like there was some buzz for that at 5, but like I personally have mocked them a lot to just still go defender there and shore up the defense. Just because for me, 5 feels a little rich for any of the wide receivers. And okay, maybe they go Jeremiah Love, and maybe they do now because then you can take a defender at 10. But now it just feels very likely that one of those first 2 picks is a playmaker, an offensive playmaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard from Todd McShay
Sure. Yeah.
that if the Cardinals don't take Jeremiah Love at 3, then the Titans will take him at 4. But if the Titans don't take him at 4, the Giants will take him at 5.
If the Giants will take him at 5, do the Browns take him at 6?
Wait,
He
who is
said
this?
none of those
Jeremiah
are a
Love?
possibility.
Okay.
Who did you say?
Jeremiah Love.
Jeremiah Love.
He is gonna.
So I need to cancel my Jeremiah Love Commanders pre-order.
He would be
jersey?
surprised by
Okay.
that. Look, I still kind of hope he gets to 8 and then the Saints
Sure.
draft him. I would still be
I don't think
excited
he's
about
getting to
that, even with the Travis Etienne signing.
If he gets to 22, would you be happy with the Chargers taking him?
Yeah, I would take him at 22.
Just curious.
I know that like goes. That makes me a complete hypocrite after all my whole like running back doesn't fix run game. You need offensive line.
Theoretically, your offensive line is pretty good. That's your cope.
That is my copium. Is
'Cause, I
that
mean, if-
our 2 tackles are healthy. We brought in a couple guards. We signed a center. And so yes, my copium is that we fix the offensive line, and now we add the potentially best running back prospect since like Saquon or Adrian Peterson.
I hate to burst your bubble. I don't think he's getting to 22.
I don't think so either. But if he was there, I'd take him.
So it sounds like they're very much in the market for an offensive weapon.
Yeah, and they're going to have their options because I think the only way the top 3 receivers go off the board is if, well, there's a few ways, I guess, now that I think about it, but like the Titans would have to go 4, Browns do it at 6, and then the Commanders or Saints do it at 7 and 8, and then the 3 top receivers are gone. But if they see the Titans take one at 4, then maybe they're just inclined to take it at 5.
True.
Because that's one less team to take a defensive player like Sonny Styles or something. Or it would be 6, 7, 8 is Browns, Commanders, Saints. The first 3 receivers go off. And then maybe you convince yourself to take Kenyon Sadiq at 10 for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they'll be inclined to take some kind of playmaker. A lot of people feel, from what I've heard from all of my sources, is that the Harbaugh is going to treat this like Jim treated his first draft. Jim a little different in that he only had 1 first-round pick, but he took Joe Alt, immediately took an offensive tackle, tried to establish that he thinks the Giants are just going to do the same.
Yeah.
In drafting a dependable defender and then drafting an offensive lineman to shore those 2 things up
Fair.
to start the franchise off on the right step. And I personally, I think that's the more likely than the playmaker. But playmaker would be really fun. I'm not a Jackson Dart fan, so I won't be happy to see it. But,
Sure.
But Tate, our Giants fan that we'll be calling on Thursday, will be very excited to see Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors, Jordan Tyson,
Yeah.
Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Love, Isaiah Likely. That is a really fun offense.
That's a fun offense to be a 9-year-old and be a fan of, or
Yeah.
however old he is.
He's 9 or 10, give or take.
That's a fun
I
offense.
need to confirm that.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. And you kind of just mentioned offensive line, so that's kind of a segue into my kind of one of my other final draft thoughts. And it's weird because offensive lineman just isn't the most exciting position, but I'm very interested to see how these offensive linemen come off the board in this draft and where they start going. Because, there's been a lot of mocks that have had Maui Noah to the Cardinals at 3, but hey, if they bite on Love, then how far does he fall? He's almost definitely the first offensive tackle off the board and first offensive lineman, but after him, how do they come off the board after him and where do they go? Because we've seen some people predict an offensive lineman slide, but that just typically doesn't happen in drafts because it's just such a valued position. So I'm so interested to see how this ends up playing out from an offensive lineman standpoint and who goes where. And I didn't think I'd be in that boat.
6 teams with 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. That is a really unbelievable thing. I'm pretty sure, not mistaken, everyone had their first-round pick last year, and then we ended up seeing the trades of the Giants trading back
think
in and the
that's
Falcons
right, yeah.
trading back in.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
So we haven't even seen draft night trades, and that was going to be my next storyline. Was I still think we're here to see some more draft night trades, especially if boards fall different ways. Like for instance, let's say the Cardinals don't trade out of 3, and they take Francis Mauigoa. Is someone going to be inclined to try to trade up to 4 to get David Bailey or Arvo Reese that fell to 4, or to get up there and get Sonny Styles? I think that's intriguing. The Cowboys are already the first one that comes to mind with their picks at 12 and 20. It kind of fits in the value in terms of getting up there to to 5 to 6 to even 4 to a degree. But then there's also teams that are like really, really good teams that are wanting to win next year and aren't going to be afraid to be aggressive with their picks in next year's draft, which is supposed to be really good. In the Rams, them trading up to 3 for Jeremiah Love. The Eagles, would they trade up to the 12 to 14 range to get an offensive lineman ready to replace Lane Johnson?
Yeah.
Does Detroit trade up and get salvage their 2027 pick for an offensive lineman if we see like 3 offensive linemen fly off the board really quickly? I think there's still some draft night trades we're here to see. I haven't even mentioned without the trade that we fully expect to see in a Ty Simpson trade, someone trading back in for Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
That I think I'm really excited to see where we get with there. And that's why, again, I think that first 90 minutes is so intriguing because as the board falls into place, where do teams see we need to go and get this guy and be aggressive?
Yeah. I think that's fair.
My question, or were you going to say something?
Well, I was just gonna say you can't beat a draft night trade, and like
No.
we've had some draft trades, but draft night trade where a team's on the clock and all of a sudden a different logo pops up or it flashes on the screen. Trade, like you just don't, and then it's like 2 minutes of chaos trying to figure everything out.
There were 3 of them last year. All 3 of them were awesome. The
Yeah.
Jaguars immediately trade up to 2 after Cam Ward is selected at 1, and now it's like, whoa, what is going on here? Are they taking Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
They took Travis Hunter. And then both, especially for our show last year, the Giants trade and the Falcons trade were cinema. The Giants trade, for me, was pandemonium.
Yeah.
Ecstatic, unbelievable excitement in that I knew Jackson Dart wasn't going to be the Saints quarterback going forward, and I was so excited for it, and so I'm jumping up and down and screaming. The Falcons trading back in was like, whoa, what are they doing? But also, we get to call Thomas again.
Yeah, it was elite
and
to
that
call
was
Thomas again.
so fun to call Thomas as he is now. He was 4 or 5 more beers deep at that point in the night compared to how he was at the beginning of the night. So
Sure.
the draft night trades are going to be electric, we expect, this year, whichever ones there are, because they're just so fun.
Yeah, I did see someone say that like they wish that the Dexter Lawrence trade had happened on draft
I
night.
agree.
That would be
And
sick.
so I was like, well, what if we just came with a proposal where the NFL just announces a trade has happened and they don't say who was traded or what pick was traded? And then on draft night, it's like, oh, you remember that trade from Monday or whatever, Sunday afternoon? Yeah,
Here's
it was
what it
Dexter
was.
Lawrence for 10
Yeah.
overall. Now the Bengals or now the Giants are on the clock. Just to kind of keep that surprise going.
That'd be great for content purposes too.
Yeah.
Because everyone can like try and guess what the trade was
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, you can ask your question.
Oh
now.
yeah, the thing so you were talking about. Actually, I don't know if you're talking about it. I'm gonna bring it up. AJ Brown, which I heard from ESPN.
Yeah.
That they said that Adam Schefter heard that AJ Brown is likely to become a Patriot post June 1st.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's the timeline they choose.
That is because at June 1st, you're able to you avoid having to trade another year of signing bonus.
Mm.
So you avoid having to pay another year of signing bonus. You can split the contract up easier is the easiest way to explain it. The Eagles will save 10 to 12 million in salary cap next offseason by waiting post June
Gotcha.
1st.
Okay.
So
That
this
was
is an Eagles enforced timeline or an Eagles preferred
Correct.
timeline.
And one thing to note that is different, because this is a trade, you can't, and it will occur post June 1st. You can't agree. I guess you could, but in the NFL terms, legally you can't agree to a trade. And let's just say the Patriots wanted to trade 31 for A.J. Brown.
yeah.
And that was just agreed upon, but we're going to do it post June 1st. Patriots pick the player that we want
I literally had that exact same thought.
and then trade him to us on June 1st. That pretty much can't happen in the letter of law. So that is one thing that is different. Also, it's another thing that's different in that,
How can they enforce that though? It's just coincidence.
I don't know.
I mean,
There'd be
what a
some
coincidence that we picked the player the Eagles wanted. Like,
there would be
who's-
some
there'd be some-
investigation.
some
on that.
yeah.
It'd be funny though, and I would propose that if I'm an
It's
NFL
like
owner.
they pick a player that like makes zero sense for them. Like I don't know,
They pick a receiver.
a receiver.
Yeah, that would be interesting. They pick.
Oh, I guess-
Let's say the Eagles needed a quarterback, and they picked a quarterback.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
31 with Drake May there. It's like, what do we?
Yeah.
Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson goes to the Patriots.
That'd be a crazy way for Ty Simpson to end up being a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
It's because the Patriots draft him to trade him.
Yeah.
The other thing that's different is it's not a release. So a release you can actually agree upon. So if the Eagles wanted to release A.J. Brown but didn't want to do it until post-June 1st to save the money, they could release him right now, and he could go talk to other teams, but he couldn't sign a contract with a new team until post-June 1st.
Yeah.
Those are two things that are different.
Gotcha.
I love that for the Patriots. That's where I've wanted
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown to end up this whole time.
I think-
Talking about that first overall pick or not first, the first round pick from the Patriots.
Think about the upgrades to their wide receiving room. You go from Stephon Diggs and Pop Douglas and Kyle Hamilton,
Yeah. Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams, to Romeo Dubs, A.J. Brown, and again, you could still have Pop Douglas thrown in that group. It's already like immediately raised from a playmaker standpoint.
Meanwhile, I feel now poverty because I see that Keishon Butte may be traded, and I'm like, honestly, the Commanders could use the help.
It's
The
bad.
the
if
Saints
you're-
could use Keishon
It's
Butte.
bad if you're over
Okay,
there thinking,
Keishon-
Keishon Butte, he might move the needle.
He would not necessarily move the needle. I'd rather throw him the deep ball than throw, Luke McCaffrey the deep ball. Let me just say that. A couple other just final question notes I have. It got announced today that, or at least I saw it for the first time today. I could be way late to this because it was they found out a couple months ago that Nussmeier had a cyst on his spine.
Yeah.
That was putting pressure on a nerve and causing his torso discomfort they dealt with all throughout last season. And he's gonna have a procedure to have that removed, and it's 2 to 3 weeks. It's minimally invasive, and he should be good to go.
I thought the wording was, and I may be getting this confused because I'll mention it here in a second to another player that had a similar thing. I thought the wording was he's asymptomatic at the moment, and if it flares up, they'll do it, and he'll only miss 2 to 3 weeks.
That's probably what it was. I probably just missed that middle point. So
Okay.
you're probably right. But yeah, because he did mention he's asymptomatic because he was able to throw fine at the combine and the Senior Bowl and stuff
Yeah.
without feeling any symptoms. So my couple of questions are: I wonder if that does anything for his draft stock. Probably not, though. I still expect him to go higher than some people predict. But I'm also how hard is that? How hard of a thing is that to catch? Because the way it's worded, it's LSU therefore didn't find that and didn't know what was up, and so he's just playing with pretty bad discomfort, and no one knows why, and they just let him roll, which seems like a somewhat of an indictment on the LSU medical staff. But I'm not not in that.
I'm
world,
just
so
guessing
don't
here
know.
that they just don't have the facilities to possibly find something like that.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know.
That's just me guessing there. An NFL franchise does have the facilities.
Let's do a little Google of how do you find a cyst? What scan finds a cyst? And that also one of my other thoughts, which we've talked about this multiple times.
Before you get to that, Francis Mauigoa has a similar thing. He has a herniated disc in his back, not a cyst. It's not a significant issue right now. It is also asymptomatic. And this came out today. I heard this from Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter, not Scheffner. Schefter. Don't want to get him wrong because he's a close friend. The teams that Adam heard from says if it worsens at all, Mauigoa would then need surgery that could sideline him for roughly 3 months. Worst case scenario, it flares up during preseason training camp, and Mauigoa may miss his entire rookie season.
Not great, especially for a guy that isn't quite viewed as an elite prospect.
Mhm.
Elite prospects, you probably get away with that just fine because it's okay. If he misses a bit of a season or gets off to a slow start, for a guy that already has a couple question marks, that could hurt. Assist is found with an MRI,
Okay.
so
That's what I thought.
definitely not something they would have on hand. They being LSU, but they could pretty easily get him sent off. for
Maybe they
that.
just never MRI'd his, I don't know, because if you MRI'd his chest where he's here, in oblique, where he's hearing the pain, I would assume, we need our resident doctor, Andrew McBride, here.
We really do.
I would assume you would find the cyst in his back but I just may be completely wrong.
I'm texting my pre-med.
About to say
future med
she's
student
she's a
wife.
future med student.
True.
She's gonna be our resident doctor of the show for many years to come. That's actually what she's gonna practice technical foul medicine. She's gonna graduate med school, and that's gonna be her full-time job. She's just gonna scroll sports Twitter and identify injuries for us.
I think
would
that
love
market's
that.
already cornered, but you never know.
By who?
What's the guy's name?
Dr. Brian Suterer.
Yeah.
There's also the fantasy football guy. He does it while he's holding his 1-year-old child the whole time.
It's
Really,
crazy.
That's
and
funny.
the child's
That's pretty-
crying, but he's talking about fantasy football injuries to look out for the week.
That's funny.
That's cool.
He's really good at it too.
That
But
leads me,
those two injury things are something to look at.
yeah,
Go
100%.
ahead.
And that leads me to which we already talked about. I just want one last confirmation so that's on the record. Who do y'all think is going to be? Well, I guess you can contradict me on me assuming it's going to be Mendoza first QB off the board, Ty Simpson second QB off the board. Who do we think is going to be the third QB off the board? Because obviously we won't get to that on the draft show. No one really sees 3 QBs going round 1. Some people think 2 QBs won't even go.
We had Taylor Green for a while.
We did.
But yeah,
I felt really good after that draft when all the highlights were on Twitter. I felt good about that. He's now more of a sleeper day 2 pick
sure. Who do we
for
think?
the New Orleans Saints.
Who do we think
love
is going to be QB3 off the board? I'm rolling with Garrett Nussmeier still. That's kind of my boy. I really think the injury hurt him. The cyst apparently on his spine really held him back from having a good season.
I'm gonna stick to Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller was my answer about a month and a half ago. I'm gonna keep that answer. Stick to my guns.
We're all different here. Then I think it's Carson Beck. Logically, I think it's going to be Carson Beck as the third quarterback. I wouldn't pick him as the third quarterback, but I do think he will be the third one. Especially in a world where the Cardinals, we're kind of saying they are going to trade up and draft Ty Simpson, and what if they don't, and someone else does? I heard from Adam Schefter today that gotta stop saying Schefter. He's going to get pissed about that.
Yeah.
Schefter
You'll hear about it in your
Yeah.
next
said
phone
today
call.
that had the Rams not traded the 29th overall pick for Trent McDuffie, that they were heavily considering drafting Ty Simpson there at 29.
I did see that.
So
yeah.
what if they trade up and to the first round and take him? Then I think Carson Beck is the second best suitor for the Arizona Cardinals, and so it kind of makes sense for him to be the pick for them. In my opinion, he's played a really, really good game in that stadium, beating the Ole Miss Rebels with the Miami Hurricanes. So he's got some
True.
experience playing out there in Arizona and Phoenix. So Carson Beck's my pick.
I can't believe it's in 3 days.
I now have my last question to y'all.
I've
Do
got
it.
one more question too.
Okay, I'll go first, then you can go.
Okay.
We've now seen some buzz that the Cardinals are considering Love at 3, and if not, or if they do want to take him, they may even look to trade back to try and take him. Do we think that's real interest for them, or they're trying to generate buzz so that someone will trade up and they can trade back?
Buzz, I think it's the same thing as what the Jets phone dead. What the Jets have done with Ty Simpson, and that saying that they kind of what a shot. What a series. This is always just a great series. I think it's the same thing that the Jets has kind of done with Ty Simpson, trying to blow up his value a little bit, force the Cardinals to feel like they have to trade into the first round. Because also, I know this is not answering your question a little bit, but if, let's say Ty Simpson doesn't go in the first round, the Jets are picking at 32. They have the entire 20 hours to field trades from teams for 32.
Yeah.
They may want Ty Simpson.
True.
They don't have to draft Ty Simpson at 32. So there could be some big-time value in that. So it kind of puts a lot of pressure on Arizona to trade up ahead of the Jets at 32. Now I'm struggling to remember your original question.
Well, it's just, do we think there's legit legs
Okay.
to the rumors that Arizona
Jeremiah
wants Love at 3, or are they just trying to generate interest to get a team
Smoke
to
and mirrors.
potentially trade up? Which I think my thing there, I guess I'm answering my own question, is I kind of want to say it's smoke and mirrors, but at the same time, who are you going to convince to trade up to 3 to get Jeremiah Love?
The Los
Chiefs.
Angeles Rams.
Not the Rams?
We did in the fun draft.
Yeah, but they
That was fun.
you're
It
getting
was.
what? They don't have a first round pick this. Yes, they do. Yes,
They
I'm
have-
sorry.
they have
had
13.
they had the one at 13.
So just
from
trade
the
back
Falcons.
10 and then trade
Yeah,
the
yeah,
2027.
I was only thinking about their pick that they traded to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are also an option. I think that's the if they want that the once in a lifetime weapon that you don't get when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback because you're always drafting in the
Even
late
after
20s.
signing Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, maybe not.
It's still though I think it's okay. That's why I'm not away from the Saints selecting Jeremiah Love after signing Travis Etienne.
Etienne.
True. Travis Etienne. However you say his name.
It's like said Etienne, I believe. I think it's
Okay.
like a ch, if I'm
Etienne.
not mistaken. Which if you can also I think that's right, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
I maybe I'm gonna say it's smoke and mirrors because I do
Yeah.
think they really want to trade out of 3, and whether that is trading back a lot, like 8 or 9 spots, and getting a first round pick next season, whether it's Dallas trades 12, 20, and then a second round next year. I think they're all there for it. They want, or they can get an offensive lineman anywhere within 10 spots of where they're picking from, and so getting more draft capital for a roster that is still not that talented in any way possible. I think this just is another element. I'll
Sure.
say.
I have some cyst in knowledge now.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Not from my wife. Andrew McBride actually came through.
Huge.
Oh, huge. Is he listening?
No,
text
he
him?
just you put the Duck One thing in the chat. He
Ah.
responded, so I was like, oh, since he just responded, I'm gonna fire it in and
Yeah.
see if I can catch him while he's on his phone. He just says it in terms of is this like LSU's medical staff not doing their job well or just like unlucky. He says it really depends on how Nussmeier was like presenting the symptoms and presenting his pain, because if he was just really like it's my oblique, to his knowledge, if they were scanning the oblique area, it wouldn't necessarily pick up the cyst where the cyst was located. So it could be unfortunate. Now, if he was, not necessarily calling it an oblique injury or being like the pain's elsewhere, maybe it is on them. But it's just kind of a weird thing of how do you really know? Maybe they could have done a little more due diligence, but it wasn't like malpractice for sure or anything like that. Just kind of tough circumstances.
At this point, we're already calling him twice on Thursday for 12 and 20.
Yeah.
But maybe we need to call him for any injury talks we have throughout the show as well.
Our resident Miami fan is also now
I actually
in the chat.
apologize. That was LIU fins up. This
Yeah.
is Miami fins up.
Because with Maui Noah and his back thing, Jordan Tyson, his injury history,
Yeah.
maybe the extra insight would be that is good to know. The fact that finding that cyst is hard to find when you're just looking at the oblique.
He did way better than Lucy did. Lucy said, "I have no clue what scan does what."
Oh, that's good.
So,
That's your future doctors of America, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, that's what you want to hear.
Well, I have, I guess, the final question, unless we think of another question, which there's so many questions.
Yeah.
And these are just all top of mind questions
Sure.
for me.
I have a question, but I can't. There's no way to answer it that I can think of.
Okay.
But I can pose it.
Let's go with me, then we'll
Yeah,
go to
you do.
you. With the top 3 receivers,
Sure.
Tyson, Tate, and Lemon.
Lemon, yeah, which all cool names, I can't
Sure.
lie.
That's a law firm. Tyson, Tate, and Lemon.
It really is.
I guess go ahead and make the prediction right now. We may not know for 2 years, so we'll come back to this in 2 years, obviously, like we do. Do you think it is... I guess I'll ask this 2 different questions. Do you think this is a draft that drafting the top receiver in the first 12, 16 picks, whatever it is, holds more value than drafting a receiver on day 2? Or my other question would have been another way of wording that. If you were these franchises, would you draft the receiver on day 1 or wait on day 2, day 3?
I'm going day 2.
Would you rather have one of these top 3 guys or one of the other pieces?
I think I'd rather go day 2. I don't really like. I think each of these guys has bigger question marks than the guys we've had in previous years.
And we can honestly answer that from our team perspective.
Yeah.
Well,
Tate has never been a wide receiver 1. Tyson has injury problems, and Lemon is odd. Not actually. Lemon is probably the most accurate to his draft projection, I would say. Like I would be most comfortable taking Lemon in the place that he's projected than I am taking Tyson or Tate in the area they are projected.
I think I'd rather take the swing on Tyson or Tate because I just expect there to be a good number of wide receivers taken at the tail end of round 1, and so therefore your round 2 options aren't actually all that fantastic.
Yeah. I would rather have Lemon in the mid-teens than Tyson or Tate in the top 10.
Well, seeing as I'm a Lemon guy, I also would love that.
Okay, that's
So-
fair. So maybe I'm lower on Lemon than I should be, but given that he's wide receiver 3, I feel like mid-teens is where where he could end up.
As a Saints fan, I think I'd be fine, and I would convince myself and be excited with one of those top 3 receivers at 8. But I do think I'd rather wait till day 2 and just get a defender with that top 8 selection. So I guess my last question on that is, if you had to predict, do you think that Jimmy Fallon was there?
Yeah.
How about that? If you had to predict, do you think the teams that drafted the top 3 receivers will get a bigger payoff than the teams that decided not to?
I think the teams that waited.
I think
I
you guys are
especially-
probably gonna have the same answer you just had.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Like, let me see if I can go back and find it. I was watching.
There's
Like, if the Giants don't take one of them at 5 or 10, are they gonna regret that?
I just think we've seen, and they get paid like it, how much a star wide receiver can change
Yeah.
things for teams. Like it just makes all the difference. And I mean, it's just tough because like this is a different year, and obviously prospects are different. These are kind of less of sure things, but your hit rate on top wide receivers is actually pretty good. Obviously, like Marvin Harrison wasn't great, but even like Tet last year, people had some questions about Tet. I had some questions about
Sure.
Tet. He looked really good his rookie season and really lived up to the hype. Guys like Malik Neighbors, he can't stay necessarily crazy healthy, but he's been really productive. The Jamar Chases, like, it really pans out.
I am gonna say that this draft looks more like 2020 than some of the Roma Dunze, Marvin Harrison Jr. class. I'm gonna say that we're gonna have a lot of misses. Because like you think about 2020, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy both went before CeeDee Lamb, and then Jalen Reagor went before Justin Jefferson. Like, I think that it's gonna be more of a sprinkling of a couple good, like a good player or two,
Sure.
than how I still think we feel about like Roma Dunze being good. And it's also it's so young, so maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's just those guys are still younger, but I feel like we were out on a couple of those 2020 guys pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Reagor never was really a guy anyone was like, oh my gosh, he's popping. I do think it's fair to say this draft will have a couple misses. It's not going to be like an all hits type
Yeah.
draft.
And maybe I'm not being fair. What year was that? Was
Well,
that 20?
Henry Ruggs is also tough because like that's
Yeah.
extenuating.
But like
circumstances.
2024, we went Marvin Harrison Jr., who, like I said, I'm kind of giving this class benefit of the doubt. So like in
I
5
mean, I think
years,
he's massively been a massive disappointment.
he's had a 700-yard season, and then what was this last year?
But think about how he was talked about pre-draft.
I think the
and
expectation
hype and
he
the
has not lived up
comparison
to
and where
expectations.
He was drafted.
Not lived up to expectations, but
He definitely has not lived up to the fantasy expectations.
not at all. You
of
go
my friends
Marvin
who've had
Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, and then Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Worthy, and then Ricky Pearsall. Like, I think each of those guys has been intriguing at times, and so I don't know. Now in 2 years we could find out that 3 of them, instead of continuing to trend up, trend down, and then it's kind of the same as that 2020 draft. We'll see. But I feel less confident about this draft class than other draft classes previously.
I'm gonna make the case when we do our Cardinals preview in July or August, whenever that is, that Marvin Harrison's failures were Kyler Murray dependent, and I'll have stats to back that up.
Interesting.
Not that I believe that, but that I will make that case.
Okay.
For
I can't wait
Cardinals
to hear that
fans.
case and then make the case that down the stretch, if Michael Wilson can ball out like that, it's a pretty damning sign that he's doing that over your
Also true.
top 10 picked wide receiver.
Top 5, top
Top
4.
5, yeah. Which, I mean, Michael Wilson, dog, but still not great. You want to ask your unanswerable question?
Yeah, like who do y'all think will be this year's CD Lamb? Okay, so like, and I would know I was just talking about him with the wide receiver thing, but he's like, I remember that draft class so vividly because it just felt like when the Cowboys drafted CD Lamb, they had gotten wide receiver 1 in that draft, and they got him in like at 17 or 18 or something somewhere later in the tens, the late teens. And so, who do y'all think will be that this year? And the one that kind of comes to mind from that's why it's just so hard to answer because it's like you have to predict someone to fall, but then you also have to predict that they're good. Do you have an answer, JP? You think it's going to
I
be?
mean, I was going to say KC,
I think KC's got that,
but
kinda
it doesn't quite
boom.
fit because he's not going to fall. Well,
He's not
I
gonna
guess
fall.
if he fell to the second round, it's obviously like not the same as CeeDee Lamb, but there is a fall and then maybe a subsequent rise. But I think he's a wide receiver that could really pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's got the best chance to boom, at least, and have way overplayed where his draft spot position ends up being. Like, it plays into the value of a top 15 pick receiver, and he
Yeah.
wasn't picked in the top 15. Which, I'll say it on air. Draft Casey Concepcion
I appreciate it.
with the, I forget which pick we have. I think we have 42, the Saints do.
Good luck.
But of the top 3, the
well,
best.
not just any position.
any
not
position.
didn't have to
Any
be wide
position.
receiver.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
meant like CD Lamb is like my go-to example of a big slide.
Jamal McCoy.
Okay.
I just
Yeah,
and I don't think
sure.
he's probably gonna fall that far. But once again, we're just like trying to make a read, and it's like, okay, he didn't play last year. Yeah, he did just finally get some drills in, and the drills went great. I think he's cornerback 1. I get why most people don't have him that because Mansour Delane played last year and was phenomenal. It's like Mansour Delane, goes at maybe the Dolphins take Delane at 11. They're at 11, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, the next couple teams don't need a cornerback or whatever, and McCoy falls to the back half of the teams, gets drafted, becomes a lockdown corner, and everyone's kind of like, yeah, that seems like a bit of a whiff from a couple teams in front. So that's my pick.
I really, really thought it was going to be Ruben Bain. I thought we were with his arm length.
That's
we were gonna
exactly
get to a
that's
point
where I kind of end up.
that he was not going to be in the top 10.
But that's the thing. That's the like right now he's predicted to go in the top 10, so we're predicting that he doesn't. Right? Because CeeDee Lamb was predicted to be like a really good go as one of the first wide receivers. He ends up going as the third.
Well, I'll say that Ruben Bain is the next CeeDee Lamb and is drafted by the Dallas Cowboys at 12
Yeah.
and makes the instant impact.
Yeah.
He won't have the double-digit sack season because he statistically can't based on historical data, but I think he could have that kind of impact.
Yeah. Ruben Bain was also my answer. I think he's going to be the guy who he's been the entire season as like the best edge rusher in the country, or he started the season that way and then kind of played like one of the best for the rest of the season. And then the whole arm thing started, and so he slid down people's boards, and then I feel like he's risen back up. And when I say slid, it was from like 1 to like 8 to like 12, and now he's back up to like 8, 6, somewhere in there. I'm going to predict that he goes like 13, 14, like early to mid-teens,
Sure.
which is a slide, and he should have gone higher, and he's going to end up being really good.
I hope he does slide that far. Because I think the only player I'll be mad if the Commanders take at 7 within reason is if they take Ruben Bain.
Sure.
Why are you mad about that?
That's a reach.
I'm sizist. I don't want short arms.
That's
Not
funny.
that high. There's just going to be better defensive players on the board, or
Yeah.
I think safer defensive prospects on the board, or you just go
What
for
if the
some stupid
first 6
reason, get an
players taking our
offensive.
defense?
Then we draft Fernando Mendoza and dangle him out as a trade chip.
That's a bad idea. That doesn't. Y'all need pieces now. You don't need picks.
What if I say, yo, give me,
Max Crosby.
yeah, or something like that.
You trade Fernando. The Raiders passed on Fernando Mendoza to draft Caleb Downs, and so then you trade him to the Raiders for Max
and they
Crosby.
give us Caleb Downs and Max Crosby.
Ooh, good idea. That's a
I
good
love
plan.
that. I love that. A completely implausible scenario.